pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Roll call for tonight's meeting. Warner?
Yes.
Barnwell?
Here.
Draper?
Here.
Kreitz?
Here.
Calhoun?
Here.
Osenga?
Here.
And Mayor McClure.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. We have no proclamations and/or awards tonight, so we'll move to citizen comments on any subject except items scheduled for public hearing. We have one public hearing item, and it's the one on the parking ordinance. So there will be time to speak to that then. You'll have 3 minutes to speak, up to 3 minutes. There's a total of 36 minutes. And people who have signed in will get the first dibs in order, and then we can go on from there. When you come up, you need to be seated there with the microphone and tell us your name and if you live inside or outside the city limits. So, Mr. Clerk, who's signed up?
There are 5 people signed in to speak. First on the list is Claire Sullivan.
Hi, I'm Claire Sullivan. I live inside city limits. And first off, I'd like to say thanks to the council and mayor for giving me the opportunity to introduce myself to those of you who may not know me much, and just to let you know I'm applying for the Planning and Zoning Commission position. First off, a little bit about me. I've lived in Seward for about 30 years. I've been in Alaska for the most part since 1981. I had a military career prior to that, and a good portion of the time I was at J-Bear and in Elmendorf. And once I left the military and moved to Seward and opened a B&B for about 8 years with my husband. And I also worked at the police department and the prison, and I was at the prison for about 24 years, and I retired in 2018. I became a member of the American Legion in 2006 based on my military service. I'm still a member of this organization, and I like to be able to say that we serve our veterans in our community quite well. Upon my retirement in 2018, I sought to give back more to the community by developing and maintaining the website for Sacred Heart Catholic Church. I joined the He Will Provide Food Pantry, and I'm now the treasurer of that. I'm also a member in good standing with the Seward Providence Health Needs Assessment Council, and have served previously on the Planning and Zoning Commission. I've served on Planning and Zoning since 2021, and have had the opportunity to review and contribute to the development of residential and commercial endeavors. In such endeavors such as the form of the conditional use permits, variances, appeals, rezones, preliminary replats, and land lease reviews. We've also had excellent work session discussions with the community that I think has really positively given back to the community and to allow people to understand what goes on in planning and zoning, because we can be a little bit confusing with the legislative and quasi-judicial form of our deliberations. Let's see. We have also, when I was, with working with the work sessions, it lets us move forward, but it also reflects, it allows us to speak with people regarding the comprehensive plan and how the city is looking to move the community forward and how everybody plays a part of that. And you'll see on my application the dates of my service prior and the in-depth training that I received from the Alaska Planners Association Commissioner Training Program. And I can tell you that was a tough program. My page was 22 single-line pages response for the exam on that. That was pretty tough. So, but I think I got to give props to the planning and zoning, the community development. They do some very good training for us on our work sessions, and it's been outstanding. We're learning a lot as individual commissioners. And this all contributes to not only the commission, but to my effectively being able to serve on the commission. So thank you for considering my application.
Thank you, Claire. Mr. Clerk, who's next?
Russ White.
Hi, Russ White, Inside City Limits, here for Parks and Rec, just updating on what's going on and what we've done recently. Over the weekend, we had Urbex basketball on Saturday. We're about halfway through the year, and in the end of March, we'll have a championship amongst the 6 teams, and we have some really cool looking trophies at the Aptech gym that just came in, if you want to take a look at them. I think they're pretty cool, and I just wanted to announce it. On Sunday, we had the Grizzly Glide ski race. Thanks to everyone who came out. It went off in the windy conditions. Big thank you to Dan Walker, who helped groom the trail out there, and to the ski club. The winners were Justin Hansen of the classic race and Logan Johnson in the skate ski race. Also thank you to Bear Creek Fire for helping provide safety while we're out there. I have a bunch of thank yous tonight because we've gotten a lot of help from various people in the community. We've had great sponsors coming forward to help us get some bigger events going on. Exit Marine, I mentioned them, are helping sponsor the Tony's Volleyball Tournament along with Tony's Bar. And we just got a contribution from Seward Community Health Center as well, which really helps us get the things we need for that tournament. And if you're thinking about signing up for that tournament, we only have 3 spots left for teams. Again, that takes place April 18th and 19th. Also, big thank you to Seward Ocean Excursions. They helped sponsor one of our banners, our safety banners for runners on roads and bikers on roads for all our races that we put out for Exit Glacier and Pink Cheeks and the Dan Seavey dog race. And thank you to all volunteers. We have a volunteer appreciation party coming up at the end of March. And Mondays at March, if you're looking to volunteer, we will have background checks. If you come to the Aptech gym, we will ship you on over here to City Hall and get your background check so you can volunteer for us for years to come. For upcoming events, we have a D&D club started by one of our local youth. So it's going to be youth-based from 8 years old to 16. That's going to be on Saturdays from 4 to 6, right before skate nights is what he was looking for. So if you have any kids out there that are really into Dungeons and Dragons or adventure in the fantasy world, they're trying to get that going, and he's really passionate about that. The big inner backcountry is going to be back in March, starts March 10th and goes to April 7th. It's been a popular class that we've had, and people ask for it to come back, so we're bringing it back for anyone that wants to get in and learn a little bit about getting into the backcountry and learning some useful skills for the outdoors. And then the last thing I wanted to get out there was kids archery. We'll have our last session in March. It's a 4-week class. We just ended our February session tonight, and we have plenty of spots open, so I wanted to get the word out about that. So get them signed up before we have to wait 8 more months for that to come around. Thank you.
Thank you, Russ. Mr. Clerk, who's next?
Maya Moriarty.
It's nice to follow him because he does a good job. So my name is Maya Moriarty. I live outside of city limits, but I've worked within the city limits for 29 years. Shout out to Sports and Rec because they're doing a bang-up job. And I just see more and more people just getting involved in the gym and more parents and families getting involved too. So kudos to them. And they've made room for more of a pickleball community, so that's super fun. And Miss Lori out there. Anyway, I want to thank Councilmember Calhoun for the draft ordinance for cannabis regulations under Title VIII. The sooner this is done, then planning and zoning can finish their related work under Title 15. So to the council, please also consider that you are designated as the local regulatory authority for marijuana, and all authorized local regulating authorities receive notices, including proposed policy changes. THC edibles was increased in September of 2021, but a year in advance, AMCO would have sent notices out for comment. Process similar to Houston's could be in place in Seward to track, monitor, respond, and possibly take local action to these notices. Council could delegate the process to ensure that the community is made aware, given notice, and is being protected. With the open container law, Anchorage and other locations have stricter laws than the state. For example, the municipal law in Anchorage strictly requires that marijuana be transported in a sealed, unopened container in the trunk or behind the last row of seats. So some of this, well, all of this you've received in an email and other emails from me, but just for the public's notification, I'm just mentioning a few things. For the product, we encourage you to question a professional panel of doctors and/or do your own research on the effects of high-potency THC products. A February 2026 New York Times article titled, "It's Time for America to Admit It Has a Marijuana Problem," and cites the negative social outcomes and whether these outcomes outweigh the benefits of collected revenue. Council could protect our community by limiting the potency of products sold. I encourage council to stay the course as the regulations allow and encourage local control to govern the time, place, and manner of a marijuana establishment that may operate under the state law. According to Christina, and I'm going to butcher her name, Saris-Henkoff, she's the local government specialist with AMCO, and I quote, "There is a lot of room to exercise local control over specific concerns." So I encourage you to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, who's next?
Rhonda Hubbard.
Good evening, Rhonda Hubbard, Inside City Limits. I want to comment today about Resolution 26-022 coming from admin to request amending the fiscal year 25-26 budget. I strongly encourage council to table this for public hearing or at least postpone it until this dais and the public have time to revisit the budget as a whole. While I expect that 25 revenues and expenses are still getting properly booked, allocated, and reconciled, the 26 budgeted revenues and expenses are still unrealized and purely anticipated. Presenting these numbers as solid without audit and asking this council today to approve applying $1 million plus of unbudgeted surplus revenues over the equally contrived amount of unbudgeted expenses goes beyond the pale of proper public process and principle. In the fall of '24, most of you on this council and the public spent weeks poring over city accounts and creating a detailed budget for 25 and 26. To now only be given 5 days since disclosure of the packet and less than just 2 hours of the latest laydown to review and accept a mid-cycle budget adjustment request of over $1 million for 2026. An overall increase in city expenditures of $1.6 million at least, I think. Lots of changes since the laydown, whatever. This budget is just too big of an ask without more inquiry and review. We also need to reflect on our budget work and remind ourselves how we garnered the extra revenues to pay for city employee salary and benefit increases. You may recall that those came from 50% of the healthcare tax to the tune of $700,000. If we realized more revenues than expected and didn't need those funds after all, shouldn't they be returned to the hospital and health fund for infrastructure repairs and or expansion? And then we just recently approved an increase in the chamber contract from $300,000 to $400,000, so should know where that will be captured in the 26 budget as well. Given these two items alone, $700,000 reduction in revenues, $100,000 increase in expenses, if applied to our budget, as they should, we technically should only have $200,000 available that can be applied to additional expenses. In closing, I would like to ask that as our revenues and city fund balances have increased significantly, nearly doubled since 2018 in fact, that instead of always seeking ways to spend the money and increase our budget, we explore ways to lower the cost of living for our residents. Consider no tax on non-prepared food items, utilities, heating oil, and local property tax exemptions that match the boroughs. Given the recent inflated value of these items, specifically, city sales tax revenues increase respectively. So please keep this in mind as we approach our next budget cycle. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk?
Last on the list is Randy McFarland.
Good evening, Randy McFarland, outside the city limits. And after 50 years, I still don't know which paper to sign when I get up here. I would like to talk about the paid parking rate change. Is that, if I'm in the right spot? Okay, good. I'm not complaining about the increase. What I'm here to complain about, and I always come to complain, is the discrepancy we have from 1996 prices to 2026. I'm going to give you just a couple examples. Employee parking was $25 in '96. Now it's $75. That's a 200% increase. I don't care about I'm not an inflation denier, okay? Prices raised. I'm sorry. My hearing aid. A slip holder 25, now 75, again 200%. The daily parking was $3, now it's up to 15, which you'll get. That's a 400% increase. When we come to the commercial spots, it was $500 in 1996, and today it's $350. That's down 30% compared to everybody else at 200 or 400% increase. I don't think that's fair. I think they should, hopefully the number will speak for himself. On the day, if we count one spot for one day, there's 152 spot days in a year, okay? In 1996, the whole season's worth of parking could have been worth $456. Today, it'd be $2,280, okay? Back then, the commercial permits traded at a 9% premium of the daily rate. So that would make theirs like, I don't know, like $2,400, I believe. So instead of paying the $350, they should be paying the $2,000. And I know that seems crazy. Why would anyone pay $2,000? Well, I didn't set the prices, you did. Okay? And I'm not here to complain, I'm just saying that for everybody else it goes up, but for the harbor merchants who buy the permit only, that's all I'm talking about, is that it went down tremendously. I don't even think we're getting 10 cents on the dollar on it, on the value of this. I think the parking policy overall should be looked at. I'm not saying the prices, just the policy overall, basically. What is the resident? That past didn't exist in. The form we talked about a resident, it was actually illegal under state law. I don't know what the definition is now. I couldn't find it in Title 15 if that's where you're supposed to look. Anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you. And that's all that's signed up? Okay, anyone else wishing to speak, if you raise your hand, yeah, come on up. I'll just call on you in order. We've got a total of 36 minutes. We got time.
Hi. My name is Robert Coleman. I am in the city. I didn't know if this was the time for me to come up and introduce myself. I thought it would be later, so I saw someone else come up. So I've been here in Seward for 3 years now. I come from California, San Francisco, large city, Las Vegas. I love it here in Las Vegas, or in Seward. I love Seward. People ask me why you live in Seward, and my response is, why not? It's so beautiful, it's so peaceful. We bought a house here, we're here to stay. So I'm currently retired. I've been married for 40 years. I have a son that lives up here, he's been here. So we're here to stay, and I just want to contribute to the city, give back to where I live. I do have an accounting degree and a master's degree. Not that that's anything special, but it gives me the opportunity to study up on different issues and do research and things like that to help understand, make informed decisions. I also had, at one time, about 10 years ago, I had a real estate license in Nevada, so I have experience with plat maps and acres and zoning laws and whatnot. So I think that's helps for this Planning and Zoning Commission. I drive during the summertime with Kenai Fjord Tours. I say that because they talk about parking and whatnot. I witness everything every day while I'm driving. What's going on in this whole city? in terms of parking, I think I have some good background to be able to put some input into that. I'm also on the board of directors at the Seward Community Health Center. So I've been doing that for the past year. That helps me. I've been able to discuss and interact with other members, and so I think I have some experience in that area, what this would require for the Planning and Zoning Commission. Again, I appreciate your the opportunity to introduce myself. I'm sorry I wasn't quite prepared. I thought it was going to be a little bit later when we were going to get up here. So I appreciate it. Thank you. I hope you will consider me.
Anyone else wishing to speak at this time? Really? Okay. We'll close this portion. And we are now at the approval of the agenda and the consent agenda. I'd like to have a motion to approve in a second, please.
I'll move for the approval of tonight's agenda and consent agenda.
I'll second it.
Okay. Also eager. It's been moved and seconded. Does anyone have any changes they'd like to make? Councilmember Calhoun?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you. I would like to pull from the consent agenda the no grounds for protest for the new distillery retail license, and item 2, the no grounds for protest to the manufacturer sampling endorsement.
Okay. That's all right. I would like to put on the consent agenda, in new business C, number 1, excuse me, appointing Deborah Altermat to the PAC cab. She couldn't be here tonight. We all received that letter, but she's the only applicant, and I'd like to just put it on consent, if that's all right. Okay. Any other changes? All right, Mr. Clerk, I think we're ready. When you're ready.
Alrighty, I was just shuffling some things around there. So, voting on the approval of tonight's agenda and consent agenda as amended. Osenga?
Yes.
Warner?
Yes.
Draper?
Yes.
Barnwell?
Yes.
Kreitz?
Yes.
Calhoun?
Yes.
And Mayor McClure.
Yes.
Your agenda and consent agenda have been approved, and on the consent agenda were the February 9th, 2026 City Council meeting minutes, the introduction of Ordinance 2026-003, amending Seward City Code 15.10.140 definitions and 15.10.226 land uses allowed to incorporate regulations for a mobile health unit, and the appointment of Deborah Altermat to PAC cab with a term set to expire July 2026.
Okay, thank you. And while we're on the subject, Mr. Clerk, the two items pulled off consent, do they appear as like numbers 4 and 5 under other?
So those
New
will go down
business.
to new business, other new business.
Right.
And you could take them up after the discussion on the developer reimbursement program.
Yes, that was what I was thinking. Hey, I think I finally figured the system out. This is great. Okay, thank you. All right, so we have our agenda, and let me move down here to figure out where we're going to go. City manager report, I guess.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So highlight a few things from the city manager report this week. The first is that this Thursday is a Parks and Recreations Department open house at 6 p.m. at the Ray Building. So everybody's invited to that for a bit of an open house to discuss the Parks and Rec department, things that you enjoy, things you'd like to see. Pickleball's a big hit, so if you want to see more pickleball, just a good discussion about the future and direction of that department. We hope a lot of people come out. Last week, I had a great meeting with the Army Corps of Engineers as they continue working on the Lowell Creek Tunnel. They had a meeting out at the Lowell Point Community Council, and they'll be scheduling an update to come to Seward again and give the City Council an update, but we're actually thinking of doing it as a joint meeting again, maybe to go over the history of the tunnel, because that was such a cool presentation that we had previously with RBHS at the library. So we're working on a larger presentation about that project design and updates in the coming weeks to months. I've also been working with a cohort of people in the community on the Rural Health Transformation Grant. The letters of intent for that first phase of funding, which would be FY25 funding, are due March 11th. And so we're working closely with Providence on what they will be submitting, since some of their submissions will come through us as the owner of the hospital, and we're also working with a larger group on a community hub for social services and medical services as well. So I'll bring forward some more of that once that's kind of finalized with what we'll be putting forth in the first round of that funding. And then I also wanted to mention that our Harbor Master Tony Saminsky did get to go down to Kodiak for the commissioning of the Frederick Man. It was sort of a back and forth for a while. It turns out they were supposed to have it back in October, but funding fell through because of the shutdown for the federal government. They came back, planned it in a hurry to the point where the only civilian not in uniform at the event was Harbor Master Saminsky. So he had a really good time being the one non-coastie in a room, and had some good conversations with people about the future of the Coast Guard in the community. My one last shout out is that there are a lot of adorable cats at the animal shelter. So if you're in the mood for a new furry friend, I would highly recommend stopping by there and saying hi to some of the cute kittens that we have ready to go home. I do note that Jason, Deputy Manager Pickling, would like to add something as well.
Yeah, so I'm Seward representative on the Kenai Peninsula Economic Development District Board, Cape Head Board, and right now they are working on basically their version of a comprehensive plan for economic development for the Kenai Peninsula Borough. And so right now they have a public input window that you can get online and take a survey. And so I just really encourage you guys to do that. If you just go to capehead.org/SEDS, it's all written in there. That closes on March 7th, but I would encourage people to get in there and make sure they're representing Seward's viewpoints and needs. So.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Questions, comments for the city manager? Yeah, Councilmember Warner.
Thank you, Madam Mayor McClure. I just was wondering if administration could give us an update. It's been a couple of months now, but there had been a grant that was applied for the vending machine for some Narcan kits or other preventative items. Could you give us just an update on where that's at?
Yes, I can give you an update on that. So Kristen, the admin for the admin department, did a great job of applying for the Narcan vending machine grant, and we received that grant, but in partnership with Katuchik Native Tribe, because they were also applying for the grant. So it was a really good opportunity for us to work together with a local organization, and so we're now coordinating regularly with Katuchik on the long-term sustainability and implementing that health vending machine. They're looking for additional funding too, for once it comes, to add and keep other items in it as well, but it'll be a really cool vending machine with a exterior wrap, and then they'll be coordinating delivery logistics, and so that'll be a great addition to the downtown once we get that all up and running. So a big kudos to Kristen for applying for and receiving that grant and finding the partnership along the way.
Thank you. Could you?
Oh, I have one more other note. We also recently moved the Narcan box in City Hall. So if you come into City Hall off hours, you'll come through the dispatch door, and then you have to hit the enter. You can open the door and then hit enter, and then you can get into City Hall and talk to dispatch. Previously, you would have to go to dispatch and inside that final door to receive Narcan, but now there's a Narcan box in that hallway on the in-between. We were able to move the donation box for the animal shelter to the animal shelter. So if you have some donations to drop off while you're picking up your new cat, you can go to that box. Or two cats. They come better in pairs, I've heard. And then, so we're cleaning up that little entryway, and it was a really no-brainer spot to put in that box to make sure that that need is filled. And I think that was everything I wanted to say on that. Yeah.
Could you mention briefly or extensively our tour that we had?
Oh my gosh, yes. The mayor and I were so lucky, and Casey and a hodgepodge of people from across the different industries in town to get a tour of the new cruise ship terminal. And so we went over there last week. Wow, it's been a long month. We've done so much. We went over there last week and took a tour of the grounds, and then we went into the building. We saw the entrance hall, which is it's a big open space. It's actually very reminiscent of the old terminal. And we were really excited to hear all of the cool ideas that the railroad had for the off-season for that space. They're very open to continuing to have those sort of activities there. The Christmas fair was at the top of that list. I know some people also mentioned playing pickleball in that facility, which would be really cool. And then we heard curling rinks, and the ideas were flowing. So it was funny, we were touring the cruise ship terminal, but it really felt like we were touring our winter recreation spot. And it was really, really awesome to see all that work being done. They are planning on having everything good to go by the cruise season in May. So looking forward to seeing the final touches on that.
And that we would be able to, in theory, I'm pretty sure, use the facility this coming fall, then after the cruise ships are done.
And then Jason just reminded me of one other thing I really wanted to mention.
What has happened?
Do you all remember that windstorm last week? And so I woke up to a few text messages saying that while I was asleep, the power went out. And I wanted to give a big shout out to our linemen and our electric department, because I was sleeping soundly in my bed like a bug, and they were out there dealing with those 50, 60 mile an hour winds, so that a lot of people didn't even notice when they woke up how much of an impact that windstorm had on our electricity, and how quickly the linemen were able to respond and get that back up and running. So big kudos to them, and big shout out for going out there when I definitely didn't want to.
Any other questions coming from this
I just have one. This will reflect on the city manager's next evaluation if she continues to mention cute cats when my wife is in the room.
How many do you have now?
We have 6.
Even numbers.
Any other? Okay, thank you. This brings us to the one public hearing for the evening.
Actually, the city clerk report.
I'm sorry?
City clerk report.
I'm just going to skip the city clerk because I've actually given him something to say in this too. So yes, sorry, city clerk. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor McClure. I actually have 2 little announcements to make that are not included in the packet. One is just a thank you to George from the IT department, who came in here quickly and got our sound working. We were having some audio issues, and people were passing Jody notes saying that there was no audio on YouTube. So thank you, George, for getting the gremlins out of our streaming box here. And the other item is the Kenai Peninsula Borough Planning Commission. This is completely separate from our local Planning and Zoning Commission, but for anyone who's interested in planning, the borough is seeking applicants for the Seward city seat on their planning commission. And so we have a flyer posted on the bulletin board out in the hallway, and we've sent out a couple e-notifications so far. But for anyone interested in planning, I've heard that's a pretty interesting gig.
And I always mention when this comes up, this is how I began my meteoric rise to become famous, because I was on planning and zoning, and I was the planning commissioner from Seward. So.
And I've heard they have a preference for someone who's not also on the local planning and zoning commission.
That's new, but yeah, I think maybe, but I think you could do both.
Could do both. And then the report that we have in the packet is the application for the student exchange program with Obihiro, Japan. And I'll turn that over to Jody for any additional details.
It's in the packet. It's also going to be available in our office upstairs, so you can come by and grab one. And then it's also going to be at the school counselor's office. So Mr. Dye at the high school has them, and fill it out. There's a couple of things that you need to do along with the signatures from the student and the parents. So just read the instructions, read through it, and they need to be turned in by April, I believe April 3rd is the date, by 5 p.m. by close of office that day. So.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. Now, It's time for the singular public hearing tonight. And when you're ready, Mr. Clerk, could you please read that into the record?
Public hearings, ordinances for enactment. Ordinance 2026-002, amending Seward City Code, Title 15.10.215, parking and associated parking references within Title 15.
Okay, and you'll find this on page 40 of the packet. I'd ask for a motion to enact and a second, please.
I'll move for the enactment of ordinance 2026-002.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Administration.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was just trying to remember the order if public comment or introduction came first, but introduction does first. So I'll let Danny speak to the bulk of this since it was his team and the Planning and Zoning Commission that really did a huge heavy lift on this ordinance. But one thing I would like to note is that I am the sponsor of the ordinance that comes through tonight as the substitute ordinance, and that's not in any way, shape, or form to steal any of the thunder for all the hard work Planning and Zoning did. It's more for a housekeeping type thing. During the amendment process in their discussions, some of the definitions that were amended to go back into the ordinance were not re-amended back into the ordinance. So we had to go through and add some of those definitions so that they existed in the code, since the original ordinance had completely nixed those. So this substitute version of ordinance 2026-002 has no substantive changes. Instead, it adds a few definitions back into that code. And I'll let Danny speak to the rest and correct me on anything that I may have said wrong there.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, council members. Before I begin, I do want to acknowledge Planning and Zoning Vice Chair Brendan Hornseth. He led a significant portion of the background research that informed the Commission's discussion, and his work included national parking reform research, including the work of Donald Shoup, who is a widely cited parking policy scholar whose research has influenced parking reforms in communities of all sizes. And I'd also like to acknowledge the Commission as a whole, who put in a significant amount of time and thoughtful discussion on this issue. For the public behind me, I mean, we've been developing a library in our office, and these are some of the large, not easy read books that we've been giving the commissioners to read through, and they're volunteers, but outside the time they spend at the meetings and work sessions, they're picking up these and going through them and spending a lot of their time. And so I know people might not always agree with their collective decisions or their individual viewpoints, but they do put a lot of time and effort into their work. So I'm proud to sit at the dais with them. So moving on, I won't read these. For context, our code, like many other communities, includes mandatory off-street requirements which dictate how many parking spaces the developer must install depending on that specific type of land use. Nationally, many of these parking codes were developed by copying standards from other cities, and so essentially they were just copy and pasted without local data and then passed along repeatedly. So essentially, parking requirements are something most communities inherit versus intentionally design, and so over time those requirements will become embedded into a city's zoning code. And then when cities develop, like Seward has over the years, the basic structure of that parking code has remained largely unchanged. And during my tenure here, our office has received multiple concerns from community members and property owners that existing parking requirements have limited their ability to develop or redevelop their property. And Seward's not alone in that. That's a national trend. And so we wanted to look into that issue until last year. You, as the council, approved a review of parking requirements as a planning and zoning priority. And so in response, the commission held work sessions in May, June, August, September, and November to evaluate whether our current minimum parking requirements truly met the needs of this community. And so throughout that process, here are a couple identified recurring issues that we found. First, there's really no universally reliable formula for determining how much parking space is actually needed, as needs are demand varies by location, season, time of day, and site-specific conditions. Second, required parking can be a barrier to development, particularly for infill, mixed-use projects, and the redevelopment of older buildings on smaller lots where otherwise viable projects just become infeasible because parking can't physically fit on the site. And then finally, the commission also discussed the cost and equity considerations, noting that required parking consumes land, increases construction costs that are often passed along through higher rents or prices, and embeds those costs in housing and commercial space, meaning they're paid for by everyone, even those who do not drive. And so we've had several members of the public come out and participate in these work sessions, raising a variety of issues, particularly related to hotels, multifamily housing, mixed-use buildings, other commercial uses, and the distinction between residential and commercial land uses. And so ultimately, at their January 6th meeting, the commission approved a recommendation to eliminate minimum off-street parking requirements for most land uses while retaining parking requirements for residential developments. And so that's what's in the ordinance that you see. The ordinance also amends the land use table to require a conditional use permit for hotels in the auto commercial zoning district. Hotels already require a conditional use permit in the central business and harbor commercial zoning districts, which are our two zoning districts that already do not have parking minimums. And so this aligns that use with those two zoning districts. And finally, and to be clear, the intent of this recommendation is not to eliminate parking, but just to remove rigid minimums that may not reflect actual demand and to allow property owners more flexibility in how parking is provided, especially for infill and redevelopment projects. Nationally, more than 2,000 U.S. cities and towns have reduced or eliminated parking minimum requirements, and fewer than 1% of those communities have later reversed those changes. And so, informed by research, available data, and national planning trends, the Commission felt that this approach better aligns the code with community goals related to housing, walkability, and the efficient use of land. So, yeah, thank you.
Okay, so
Happy to answer any questions.
when we get back to us, do you have anything else to add?
I really don't think so. I
Okay.
think you did a great job.
Then I will open the public hearing on ordinance 2026-002. Mr. Clerk, has anyone signed in?
Yes, 2 people have signed in to speak. First on the list is Brennan Hornseth.
Brennan Hornseth, inside city limits. As a member of the Planning and Zoning Commission, I want to say that the ordinance 2026-002 before you is the culmination of many work sessions and meetings about parking that P&Z has had over the past year. We've had a good amount of public engagement at many of those work sessions and meetings, as well as coverage in the local newspaper, and heard from property owners, developers, business owners, and more, which confirmed the research and that parking minimums are a major stumbling block to easy or affordable development in Seward. With the passage of this ordinance, Seward can join the thousands of towns across the nation which have taken similar steps and are reaping the rewards of better utilized valuable land, increased infill, additional housing, and lower barriers for owners and businesses to develop their own private land. In the end, P&Z passed this ordinance for your consideration with a 5-to-1 vote. I hope this sends a strong signal to enact this ordinance. That being said, and because it was brought up time and time again during P&Z's discussion on this topic, I do hope that this ordinance is not passed in a vacuum. To stay ahead of issues in the long run, the city needs to consider performing annual or semi-annual parking studies and determine the parking utilization rate of its public lots and on-street spaces in order to make informed decisions on where and when to charge, to stop charging, and/or adjust prices for its public parking. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, who else was on there?
Tamara Filipovic.
Hello, my name is Tamara Filipovic, and I live within Seward city limits. I'd like to make a comment in support of the proposed parking ordinance. Firstly, parking minimum requirements that were originally in the code are arbitrary and not based on any sound evidence or studies. There's no universally reliable metric for determining the precise number of parking spaces required for each land use. What is more, the impact of parking minimums on communities like ours is damaging. Required parking minimums consume valuable land area, increase construction costs, and limit design flexibility. Excess parking requirements add substantial cost to development, which are often passed on to renters and home buyers through higher rents and purchase prices. Beyond cost considerations, excess parking leads to inefficient use of valuable land and contributes to auto dependency, which increases cost of living. I'd also like to point out that existing parking in our town will not go away as a result of this ordinance. What is more, many people and builders and developers may still choose to build parking because that is what they or their customers prefer and want. But the point is that that choice for parking is with the very people whose land it is, instead of that decision being forced on all of us in a one-size-fits-all approach. At the same time, this ordinance also ensures that hotels have to apply for a conditional use permit across all districts, which means that P&Z will still have oversight and can require hotel developers to have parking. In closing, I believe that this ordinance is the step in the right direction for us to start making changes that enable us to attract and retain year-round residents, organizations, and businesses that are the backbone of our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak to this? Raise your hand and you can come up. No? Okay, I'll close the public hearing portion, and that brings it back to council. And at this point, I think it's appropriate to move the substitute before, okay. So there is a substitute version, which I'll have administration speak to after we, okay. So I'd like to move the substitute version of Ordinance 2026-002, and I'd ask for a second, please.
I'll second.
Okay. Do we need to hear about it now before we vote, I would suppose, right?
Yeah, I can speak to it. As I mentioned in the introduction, this substitute ordinance changes a few things with the original. It changes the sponsorship from planning and zoning to me because of the non-substantive housekeeping changes that were made. It also reinstates Section L, which, as we were going through those housekeeping changes, we removed but needed to move back in. And it includes a memo that explains these as well. So no substantive change, I keep saying that wrong one, no substantial changes to the work and everything that was presented by planning and zoning, just a few housekeeping to make sure that we didn't have to come back with another ordinance to update later.
I just wanted that stated before we, so we vote on adopting the substitute instead of the original.
Yes,
correct?
unless there's any further discussion on the substitute
Are
version.
we ready to vote on just, yes, Councilmember
We're
Hill?
voting to accept it, not adopt it.
I'm not sure.
Or to enact it?
Except, the wording is
Oh.
we're voting to accept the substitute?
Yes, so this will actually not be the final
Right, it's not
vote.
the
It'll
final
just be
vote.
like making an amendment.
Right. So instead of the original, we would have this in front of us. Are we ready to vote? Okay, Mr. Clerk.
So this will be voting to accept the substitute version of the
Thank you.
ordinance. Draper?
Yes.
Kreitz?
Yes.
Barnwell?
Yes.
Warner?
Yes.
Calhoun?
Yes.
Osenga?
Yes.
And Mayor McClure?
Yes.
Okay, the substitute version of the ordinance is now on the floor.
Okay, so now that brings us to council discussion. Any questions for anybody? This has been pretty thoroughly vetted. Yes, Councilmember Calhoun.
Yes, Madam Mayor, thank you. Yeah, I'm just going to echo that. I went to all of the meetings, or the vast majority of the meetings that they had discussing this, and there's a tremendous amount of public input as stated, and so I think they've done some excellent work on this, and I think it's time for us to move forward with our
Thank you.
parking updates.
Yeah, I had my doubts, but I like the amendments they put in, and I feel pretty comfortable with it myself, so. Any other input? We ready to vote? We are ready, Mr.
Okay,
Clerk.
so this will be the final vote for the enactment of the ordinance.
Right.
Calhoun?
Yes.
Osenga?
Yes.
Warner?
Yes.
Draper?
Yes.
Barnwell?
Yes.
Kreitz?
Yes.
And Mayor McClure?
Yes.
That ordinance has been enacted.
Okay. Do we need a break or can we move to one more? Okay. Okay, let's go on to unfinished business. And this is the discussion of the draft ordinance for marijuana regulations in Title 8. And this was brought to us by Councilmember Calhoun and postponed to this meeting because he wasn't present at the last meeting to present his ordinance. So I think all we need to do is ask Councilmember Calhoun to speak to it and we discuss.
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, based on a lot of public input and, work sessions that Planning and Zoning had dealing with Title 15, obviously this is a Title 8 issue that needs to be resolved before they can finish up some of their work. And, reading through some of the information that we got from AMCO helped me to clarify a little bit of my thoughts when it comes to limiting marijuana licenses, whether it's just to a static number or based on population. And what I would like to see is that we enact an ordinance that limits all marijuana licenses regardless of whether they're retail, manufacturing. There's 4 different licenses that are available, and I would like to limit that number to 2 total licenses for the whole industry is what I'm looking to do. And part of getting away from the population is that fluctuates a little bit, and their explanation actually made sense to me that if we limited like we do with liquor licenses to 1 per 3,000 in population, when we have 3,001, then it bumps up that number to an additional license. If we lose 2 people, then we're overcount. They don't like the word grandfathered, they like the word overcount. So being in a town this size, things can fluctuate pretty easily when it comes to population, and so I would just like to limit it to 2 licenses in that industry.
Are you also, on page 53, you mentioned 3 items, A, B, and C. One of them was based on population. You've changed that.
Right.
And then B was on-site consumption only allowed indoors. Are you still
Yes.
including that? And then also prohibiting drive-through.
Correct.
Okay. Yes, Councilmember Warner.
Thank you, Madam Mayor McClure. I would like to talk a little bit about the number of marijuana retail licenses available within city limits. So I would like to propose that we limit it to 3. My reasoning for wanting to have 3 marijuana establishments is that according to state statute, we have to protect our taxpayers' confidentiality, and it restricts any disclosure of information that could reveal the financial particulars to any one individual taxpayer. So when there's a single operator existing within one specific tax category, being able to gather aggregated reporting of the tax revenue for that specific industry. By having 3, we can do that in a way that still protects the individual operating in their personal and private financials. And in doing so, we could be able to see what type of revenue is being brought into our community via marijuana tax sales.
Councilmember Calhoun.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I appreciate that. The only challenge that I would have for that is if that same individual got that 3rd license, and then that makes that whole point kind of moot. So we would have to limit the number of licenses that an individual could have if we were going to use that criteria.
Councilmember Warner.
Thank you, Madam Mayor McClure. Yes, I absolutely agree with that. I did some research. The city of Longmont, Colorado, they have in their city code, they passed a resolution 2020-21 where it specifically states that no person shall be permitted to become an owner of any license within the marijuana industry if that person is already an owner of any other license within that city. And they also may not be a controlling beneficial owner of more than one marijuana store licensed in their community. They've got Longmont, the city of Longmont in Colorado has extensive city code around marijuana. It was very interesting to dive into that today. And if anybody wanted to take more look at that, I would encourage them to, but that would talk to the point of your point of the one individual owning all three.
Other input? Councilmember Barnwell.
I kind of side with Councilmember Calhoun. No offense, but I just think that the Longmont example kind of complicates or convolutes the situation, and maybe there's another way around. I wasn't aware that we had access to the marijuana retailers' income.
We don't.
It's the taxes that are paid for on marijuana to the state.
And we have access to the taxes on that.
We do not, because there's only one.
Sorry.
Yeah, we did discuss this. Maybe I'll ask this.
Yeah, so sales tax revenue and revenue on taxes are reported to us monthly, quarterly, and you can see what comes in per industries if you pull that report from the borough. But if there are less than 3 of an industry, that's not reported to ensure privacy of that industry. So in our situation, we have a really good example in our town here. We have one marijuana retailer in town with 2 separate locations, but tax information is not shared because there's nobody else that could be. Versus the fishing industry, if Seward says, oh, you make X amount each year based off of sales tax in the fishing industry, code 5, blah, 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 then you can't be like, oh, this charter makes this amount of money. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So basically, it's a moot point. Basically, it doesn't make sense to, in this case, it doesn't make sense because we only have one owner, therefore we're not going to see those tax revenues.
At this point in time, yes. We only have one, so we would not be able to see tax records.
Yeah.
Input? Anyone else? What this will be is, this is a discussion. We would give direction to administration to put this into a package for us, right, soon. And we would be discussing and voting again, so it could be amended at that point too, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes.
That gives us a chance to think this through. Yes.
Sorry, Madam Mayor, but also that would include a public hearing, I'm assuming,
It would, because it's.
on that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so there would be discussion.
So the order of operations tonight would be, excuse me, Madam Mayor, sorry. Order of operations for this evening would be to vote on whether or not to direct administration to bring forward an ordinance with the parameters and changes to Title 8 as listed. Then we would put that together, bring it back, introduce it, so we would have an introduction, and then the next council meeting following that introduction, we would have a public hearing for enactment.
So my thought would be to keep it at the limit of 2, give us a chance to hear from people and think this through, because, and then we could always amend it at that time. I have a feeling that at this point, allowing anything more here to come in might fly in the face of some of the people that are trying to keep things tamped down. But it would be good to hear from people, so there's going to be a process, whatever we put in now, and so. Vice Mayor.
Yeah, and I kind of agree with the thought that doing it the way that the city manager kind of laid it out, because then things will actually be laid out a little more. This is a little confusing to me and convoluted, and I'm not really understanding. I'm not seeing the dark side or the good side or the bad side of this, because I haven't looked enough into it, and I'm not hearing everything that could possibly come out of this. So I think if we actually move it forward to where administration can bring something that might be vetted any and all ways. That'd be
And
good.
does that sound, yes?
Yes, Madam Mayor, and I think for the public to understand that this will be an ordinance that's put together. We'll have the public hearing, amendments can be made, things can be added, things can be changed. What is put together by the administration won't be probably the final product, so some of the comments that people have for other things to be put into our Title VIII, we can always take a look at that when we do this and get it adjusted.
Councilmember Draper?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I wanted to kind of respond to Maya's comment about the noticing from AMCO. Is that something that has to be in an ordinance? She alluded to the fact that we could delegate a responsibility to notice people about regulations that were changing from AMCO. Is that something that's a separate issue or something to be in the ordinance or something we can research before?
That would be a question either for,
Since that might be a separate issue, I can ask
I
AMCO
think
about
so.
that and how to
maybe that comes up.
better get the word out.
Okay.
And then the other thing I had was, I'm kind of vacillating on the indoor smoking. We've got this endorsement for on-site will be only allowed indoors, and is there, the danger of indoor smoke, that's just an issue that I guess could come up when we talk about the ordinance again, if we do any research on that.
We could talk about it then, or do you want to wait? Okay. So, yes, Councilmember Calhoun.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, just one other comment for Councilmember Draper. If you go to the AMCO site, you can actually sign up to get email notifications of any changes that are coming, because those of us that have liquor licenses, we get emails from them saying changes that are happening and what's coming, but there's also, you can sign up via email to get notifications. You don't have to be a license holder. Anybody can do that to get notifications of what changes are coming.
So, what we're going to do is vote on giving direction to come back with an ordinance such as this.
And if I had to predict, I would say March would be the month where you'd see it introduced at the first meeting in March and then coming back for public
That's
hearing
soon.
and enactment in the second meeting.
If they can come up that soon.
I think we could pull it off.
It's heavy lift.
Krista signed us up for it, so it sounds
Okay.
good. Yeah.
I'd like it as soon as,
Yeah.
the
We'll shoot-
sooner the better.
With the, Madam Mayor, if you
Yes.
don't mind, with the language presented, I wholeheartedly believe we'd be able to get that back to you by March 11th for introduction.
Okay, so this would be a yes vote. We do need to vote, so a
Yeah,
yes or a
just
no vote.
Going by the book here, City Code does want a majority vote of the council in order to prepare the ordinance.
Okay. Are we ready to vote that way? One way or the other? Okay, Mr. Clerk,
Okay.
call the roll.
Voting to prepare the ordinance for introduction, Osenga,
Yes.
Calhoun,
Yes.
Barnwell,
Yes.
Kreitz,
Yes.
Warner,
Yes.
Draper,
Yes.
and Mayor McClure.
Yes.
Okay, we have our directive.
Okay, I'm going to call for a 5-minute break at this point. Let's call it 8:10. I'll make it a 6-minute because we're into the 4-minute already, okay? We'll come back at 8:10 and I'll gavel us out. We can refill the coffees. We don't have a lot left.
Yeah, I hope not.
Okay, we're streaming to YouTube. We have video and audio. Ready when you are.
I'll bring the council meeting back to order. We're now at new business, and we have some resolutions. And the first resolution is 2026-020. Mr. Clerk, could you please read that in?
Resolution 2026-020, approving an update to the City of Seward fee schedule.
Okay, and you'll find that on page 56. I'd ask for a motion to approve in a second, please.
I move for the approval of Resolution 2026-020.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Administration.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is our annual fee schedule that we bring forward. It's separate from our utility and tariff documents, kind of sets the fees throughout the city for the different things that we have, like animal control, business licenses, things along that line. We have some changes presented to you tonight. They are in the library and the parking department. In the library department, the changes we're presenting are rounding. As you may have heard, the penny is no longer in existence, which is an exciting time for those who have copies that cost 29 cents. So we are hoping to move forward with just getting all of these to an even number to make things a little bit easier for our staff and patrons. We are also presenting increase in the parking permit fees and daily parking fees in the harbor area. These are some increases that we've been contemplating for a few years now to bring more in line with the rest of the state that have similar parking setups as us. The big visitor increase, currently for a 24-hour period, it would cost $10.70. We're after taxes and everything, we're recommending increasing that to 15 for a total of $16.05 because that covers that whole 24-hour period in there. We also have some increases to the permits, including the harbor area employee permit, slip holder permit, resident permit, oversized permit, and visitor permit from $53.50 to $80.25 for the seasonal permits, and then for the Seward area residents from $53.50 to $64.20. We are hoping to move forward with these to, one, like I said, bring those prices in alignment. We've also realized that with our software, those with the permits are actually able to put 2 cars attached to it, so I'll put that little secret out there that this actually covers 2 vehicles under 1 permit. I was excited when I realized that, so you didn't have to decide which vehicle you're driving down to the harbor that day. And one of our long-term goals is to have that parking fund build up funds within it so that we can utilize it to do things in the community that need upgrades or advancement. So right now we're working with the Parks and Rec team and finance on working through an internal transfer so that we can hopefully use some of the funds from last year to redo the boardwalk along the lagoon. And so that's just kind of the intent, to utilize these funds as we move forward and bring those visitor funds back into the community. And I think that's all that I have to say about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Council,
This funnel.
how do you feel? Input, questions? Can't see around you. Councilmember Barnwell.
Yeah, this might be for Danny, but I was wondering if it's just convenience that all the lots are the same, well, not all the lots, sorry, parking north-south lots are 1605 and daily uplands and northeast. I thought we were going to tweak those depending on how busy.
That's a Parks and Rec question.
Yeah, so that would be a...
No, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Parks and Rec.
Yeah, it's Mel.
Okay.
We talked about that.
I'm talk to Danny again anyway.
Yeah. Danny, he does have a book on parking right next to him.
I guess that was it.
Yeah.
Hello, I'm Benny.
Hey, Benny. Yeah, so I thought, like, we're trying to reach, is it kind of this 80% window that we want to get per lot? So why not tweak each lot, depending on the popularity, at different prices?
They're all pretty full all summer. We're sitting, aside from Northeast lot, which is a little more of a walking ways away, which would be the obvious deterrent, we're at 90 to 95%, almost full every day, especially those large festivals and meetups throughout the year.
So I guess next year we could look at it and see how we're looking and tweak that.
Yeah, I actually wrote down a note. Someone made a comment about parking utilization and keeping track of that, and share that with community development, and that's a great idea to keep track of what you're speaking. So,
Yeah,
That answers
Thank
your
you.
question? Thank you, Danny. Other questions, comments on any of the fees? We ready to vote on this then? Here's we are.
Voting on the approval of Resolution 2026-020. Kreitz,
Yes.
Warner,
Yes.
Calhoun,
Yes.
Osenga,
Yes.
Draper,
Yes.
Barnwell,
Yes.
and Mayor McClure.
Yes.
That resolution has been approved.
Okay, and now we have Resolution 2026-021. When you're ready, Mr. Clerk, would you please read that into the record?
Resolution 2026-021, updating the mobile vendor application period for permitting mobile vendors on city-owned property. And this one is sponsored by me, the city clerk.
Okay, guess we know who we'll be talking to. You'll find that on page 71, and it asks for a motion to approve and a second, please.
We move for the approval of Resolution 2026-021.
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Mr. Clerk, do you want to explain that to people?
Yes, thank you, Mayor McClure. So after our discussion item on mobile vending, I was left with the question of what's the harm in leaving the mobile vending program open the way it is. And I kind of went back to the drawing board and took a closer look at our application packet. And there is a highlight from it on page 75 in the packet. And I think the problem with our packet is that the application period is open-ended, so it opens March 1st and remains open. And what this does is it creates, or it causes Parks and Rec, for example, to block off those two parking stalls, like one in the harbor parking or permit lot and the other in the south lot. They have to be barricaded off in the event that someone applies. So to me, a good compromise would be to close the application period on March 31st, so there's just that application window, and if no mobile vendors apply for those spots, we would just let the Parks and Rec Department know that the spots can go back to just being regular parking stalls, and we don't have to see them go to waste if no one applies.
Okay. That sounds brilliant, actually, Mr. Clerk, but are there any other questions or comments? I think we're ready to vote on this.
Voting on the approval of Resolution 2026-021. Warner,
Yes?
Barnwell,
Yes.
Draper,
Yes.
Kreitz,
Yes.
Calhoun,
Yes.
Osenga,
Yes.
and Mayor McClure.
Yes.
That resolution has been approved.
Okay, and we have one other resolution. It is Resolution 2026-022. And Mr. Clerk, would you please read that in?
Resolution 2026-022, amending the FY 2025 through 2026 budget to reflect mid-cycle budget adjustments and appropriating funds.
And you'll find that on page 76. I'd ask for a motion to approve in a second, please.
I'll move for the approval of Resolution 2026-022.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. And we do have a substitute on this too, but I'd ask for administration maybe to speak to whatever you want to speak to, and then we'll move to
Wonderful.
substitute.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I will speak to this as a whole. So we had presented the FY 25 and 26 biannual budget. And in that, we looked back at the year that just happened, FY 25, and we haven't yet received our full allocation of sales tax from the borough, so it's still a bit of an estimate, but we have seen through some of the expenses that we've incurred over the year. And as we were looking at that, we saw several areas that we came in about 5% higher than budgeted for. So in our initial biannual budget adjustment for the mid-cycle budget, we were adjusting back to that FY 25 to mark and address those expenses, and then looking forward to FY 26. But after some discussion with some city council members, I'm proposing a substitute resolution that removes that reference to FY '25 and instead only looks forward to FY '26 in the general fund. And so as you look at the substitute resolution, it has recommended adjustments for revenue across the revenue increases as well as revenue decreases. The big ones on the revenue decreases side are bringing down the PILT from the Alaska Sea Life Center, bringing down that administrative expense from the electric department that we've been working on throughout the year to bring down and move those expenses into that department, and bringing down our gravel sales because we have not seen that revenue come through and we don't expect to see that revenue. For revenue increases, we are expecting a large increase in our tax revenue from sales and our interest on investments. And then looking at the expenditures that we have, that we anticipate for FY '26, we kind of took into account some of those overages that we saw in FY '25, and those really are prevalent in three major departments. The first is the police department. We've seen high overtime in that department, and that's definitely attributable to the fact that we are currently operating with 4 vacant positions in the police department. We utilize temps when we can, which come in at a much higher rate at the personnel budget line, and we also utilize different strategies, but we've been seeing that, and I don't anticipate an influx of 4 police officer applications after tonight, but I would highly recommend if anybody is interested to reach out to Chief Tyner, our HR manager. We're definitely on the hunt for some good quality people to get into those positions, but even then, it takes time and investment in those. With our library department, we made a policy change this year that we've seen a financial impact from, which is expanding those hours from 5 days a week to 6 days a week. We're also planning within some of those expenses some personnel things that we know are going to happen this year. That would be either having to fill in for somebody while they're on a medical or maternity or paternity leave, or a large expense that we are anticipating for a leave payout from a retirement. We had a few of those last year that really pushed us a little bit above budget, and we're looking to be more proactive as we plan and look forward as we have conversations with the personnel within the city. One large policy shift that I did implement or propose in this mid-cycle budget for FY '26 is the refunding of the teen rec room position. We had previously had 2 positions in the teen rec room that were unfunded when we moved that to the Boys and Girls Club. We've since taken those expenditures back on, and we've funded one of those positions, and we've been seeing such high attendance in that, and I've been seeing our sports and rec staff be kind of spread thin across those 2 realms, that we're moving forward with separating those departments to be a sports and rec and a teen rec room, and are hoping to be able to fill that position again so that we could utilize the extra hands and also hands on staff, and also avoid the PERS termination study, which is a termination study that we have to run when any position is unfunded for a certain amount of time, that then goes and backlogs how much you would have to pay to get rid of that position. All that being said, I definitely think that as we move forward, there's an opportunity for more input, so if any council members have any comment after I finish talking, that would be welcomed.
Okay, so we have some things here. We have a substitute that, do we move the substitute to just get it moved and then discuss what follows? Okay, so I'll move the substitute to, however the wording is, the substitute resolution for Resolution 2026-022.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. So we vote to put that on the floor. Okay.
Voting to replace the original with the substitute resolution 2026-022. Osenga?
Yes.
Warner?
Yes.
Calhoun?
Yes.
Barnwell?
Yes.
Kreitz?
Yes.
Draper?
Yes.
And Clerk.
Yes.
Okay, that motion passed and the substitute resolution is now on the floor.
Okay, so now we can discuss that. Councilmember Calhoun.
Yes, Madam Mayor, thank you. I'd like to make a motion that we postpone this resolution until a special meeting on March 2nd.
Is there, that was a motion.
Yes.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. We can speak to that. The postponement.
Yes, Madam Mayor, thanks. I got a lot of input from community members that they would like to have an opportunity to speak to this mid-cycle budget adjustment. And because there is, $1 million+ that are at play, and where that could go, what it could be allocated for, and just other general questions about this. And I just think that in the spirit of, I sometimes hate to use the word transparency, but in that spirit, it would be nice to get some community input on what we're doing with that $1.5 million, and not to push it too far down the road. So that's why I was suggesting a special meeting for next Monday with the provision that we're able to relax some of the rules at that meeting so the public will have all the opportunity that they need for their input.
There would be votes for that. So there's two things going on. We would need to discuss postponement until then, and also discuss having a special meeting on March 2nd, correct? So tell me what order that has to happen in.
So the city clerk was wondering if there would be a quorum on March 2nd first, and then second of all, what time would you like the
So
special meeting to be held?
Councilmember Barnwell?
Yeah, can we just discuss that date before we vote on it? Or is that something?
Well, the question is, are you going to be there?
Yeah, that's what I was hoping to discuss, if your
Right.
availability.
Well, I had another comment related to the date, but I don't know if we want to discuss that now. Do you want to resolve this first?
Madam Mayor, I think right now would be a great time to discuss what date's available and whether or not the council would like to postpone to that date. I would potentially recommend making, when a motion is made, or no, the motion's been made.
Yes.
But the motion has been made to move the date, and the date is specified. So if that motion does passes by the transitive property, I can also utilize that as a way to then request that special meeting. Does that make sense, or did I make that more difficult?
That made no sense whatsoever.
So the motion includes the statement to postpone and schedule, so I would take that both of those are wrapped up in the motion, so you just need to decide if that date is the one that works and
So the
discuss now.
question is amongst us, I mean, this would be next Monday. Time, let's talk, is there anyone who could not be here in the early evening on Monday?
I'm out of town on Monday.
Anyone else?
You talking about March?
Yeah, this coming Monday.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm assuming it would be the 5:30 or 7 or something like that-ish after work time. Councilmember Barnwell.
I may be out of turn here, but I just want to suggest, because we are having a meeting with the hospital on the 23rd, and that meeting will influence where we might want to put our money. So maybe having this discussion after the meeting with Providence would be beneficial.
I think we need to get this done. I mean, we
Okay,
can
I just
always
wanted to throw
move
that out
money.
there, yeah.
That's just my opinion, but I'd rather do it sooner rather than later, I think, personally.
Can I just, sorry, Madam Mayor,
That's okay.
if I may. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to postpone this to have a special meeting on the 2nd of March to get public input? Is that what I'm just trying to understand what we're trying to get.
Okay, Councilmember was saying it's partially for public input, but it's also, we didn't have a lot of time to dig into this because we didn't get it until the agenda came out on Thursday. And so it's really, for me at least, it's not enough time to really take a harder look at it and make sure that what we're going to do with this additional money and stuff is actually what we need to do. And so my hope is that we can get some input on that, but also will give us more time to make sure that, that this is where we want to go.
Councilmember Draper.
Yeah, and I concur with Councilmember Calhoun on this too. I have probably 6 legal pages filled with questions that I still haven't asked, and I already asked quite a few of them. I need more time, I feel, to feel comfortable with it, and I'm new around here, so financial statements for municipalities are complicated, and I just think the budget's the most important thing. I mean, it's our moral document, and it deserves to have a lot of time, and it deserves public input, and like I said, it's $1 million, and $1 million here, $1 million there, pretty soon you have talking about real money.
March 2nd was chosen because it's a Monday? I'm just wondering if maybe we could have everyone there if we could do it on a Tuesday? Or is that just getting too weird? No.
I think
Okay.
there's another
Tuesday
meeting,
is
I think.
P&Z meeting night.
On the 2nd? Oh, okay, I thought they meant the, okay, never mind, I didn't know that.
There's no meeting on Tuesday.
I'm sorry,
Oh, no P&Z on
We have
Tuesday?
no official business, so we're going to talk to you tomorrow. We are gonna-
okay, so. I can't do Tuesday. Not, okay, I'm getting hit, okay. I mean, this is a discussion, so are we okay with having 6 of us there on the 2nd to discuss it? I guess. Okay. So, what do we need to do? Vote on that, or just, we need to vote to postpone until the special meeting, March 2nd at, let's throw in the time. 7, 6:30, 6? 6.
6 would be great.
6 PM. Does that sound like, okay.
Okay, so voting to postpone this resolution to a special meeting on Monday, March 2nd at 6 PM.
Okay.
Ready to vote?
Yes.
Draper?
Yes.
Kreitz?
Yes.
Barnwell?
Yes.
Warner?
Yes.
Calhoun?
Yes.
Osenga?
Yes.
And Mayor McClure?
Yes.
That resolution has been postponed.
Okay, and that's a week from now, so hopefully there will be adequate publicity about this if people want to come and speak. Correct? Okay. Whew. That got us through a whole bunch of stuff, and already on consent, we have appointed Deborah Altermat to PACCAB. So I believe the next item is to appoint 2 P&Z commissioners for 3.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
I may need to declare an issue with this since my
Oh, that's
wife
a
is
point,
one of
isn't
the
it?
applicants.
So would you, I guess you would probably have a conflict. so
I could
perhaps-
possibly have a
You
conflict.
probably shouldn't vote on this, okay. I think you could sit here if we can verify that you're not, the way we vote is we check boxes on a piece of paper, so I think you could stay
I
up
just
here.
won't get a piece of paper.
You want, make sure he doesn't get them. Thank you for that. I never think of these things. Okay, Mr. Clerk will pass out.
Okay, so I have 6 paper
There are
ballots
6
here
ballots.
with Vanessa Verhey, Robert Coleman, and Claire Sullivan on the ballot. So please select no more than 2 and then pass them back to me and I will read out the results.
Okay. And may I ask, well, let me look at it first. Okay, never mind, I won't ask. We do sign these.
You do sign.
Yeah, there's a line to sign it. Yeah, we do sign these. It would be like if we were doing a verbal vote, but here we got 2. There we go.
Okay, I have all 6 here. I'm just going to read out the results and I'll hand them over to Jody. So we have a Vanessa Verhey and Claire Sullivan. This one has all three checked, so I cannot count any of these.
Okay.
Vanessa Verhey and Claire Sullivan. Vanessa Verhey and Claire Sullivan. Robert Coleman and Claire Sullivan. Vanessa Verhey and Claire Sullivan. So Vanessa Verhey got 4 votes, Claire Sullivan got 5 votes, and Robert Coleman got 1 vote.
All right, and I want to thank everyone who applied. And you may rejoin us now.
Thank you.
Councilmember Calhoun. Okay, the next thing is to discuss the developer reimbursement program and the American Rescue Plan Act. And we have some information here from our Deputy City Manager. So I'm going to turn this discussion over to Mr. Bickling.
Yeah. We need to have like an acronym Bible to making sure we cover everything. So, but what I want to do is in about, well, I guess more than a month from now, but on April 13th, we've scheduled a work session with you guys to have the current DRP applicants come and present to you. Kind of as we discussed, this is a new format, so it makes it a little more public, and that way you guys can hear from the developers and see what their needs are, and also look at like, does their proposal or their housing need, how well does that fit kind of Seward's needs? And so I did want to, as we're going into that, I did want to give you guys a little bit like some background updates, so we're just kind of a reminder of where we're at. So on that late on it, you have currently there's about $3.3 million in the DRP fund. That's cash, but some of that is encumbered by projects that are in process. And so we can talk. So right below there we have Zimmerman Phase 2. There's a little bit yet to be spent there. And then last year we had Resolution 2024-048, which is for the Forest Acres and a Fogback subdivision roads and electric. And so we can see that the total of the encumbered funds is 1.97 million. And so kind of the important thing I'm doing that math just so we can come down here. And so we can see right now that the available DRP balance that you guys are going to be in discussion with is about 1.3 million. As far as consideration for the applicants to kind of split up there, so or however that works. The other piece I want to talk about too is the Hilltop development. They came in about $1 million under budget, and so some of those funds went back into it, but we had allocated American Rescue Plan Act funds, or ARPA funds as we call them. And those funds can be used for water and sewer only and must be spent by June 30th, 2026. And they're not kind of a fund that you can like use in a rotating like loan like we have for DRP. So they kind of have to. So when we were looking at a lot of those earlier DRP funds, the portion that was going to be that the city's portion that we're putting in, that's going to be in there. Those were like ARPA funds, and the DRP funds were the funds that we're giving. Those are the funds that we get paid back. And so there's a little bit of a split there. And so, any questions so far on where we're at? And again, you guys have time to think about this and talk about this, but I just want to give you guys in advance like a heads up of where we're at, and that way if you guys do have questions in the meantime, you can ask those. So, but we have 2 requests from the DRP that are finalized applications. One is for the Mount Alice Estates. So and remember too, we have 2 ways that people can ask for funds. One is they can ask for the city to pay up front, and then after they do their improvements and sell those lots, then they pay us back half that amount. Or the other one is that the developer pays up front, and then they will bring the receipts, and that once that is done, and then we will pay for half of that. So the difference between the 2 is that I think method one or whatever that I discussed, is that it actually encumbers more funds, right? Because we're paying for all that up front, and we have to wait for that money to come back, and so it does require more money out front. So for the Mount Alice Estates, the total electric cost is about $84,000, and that's affecting 11 lots. So that's kind of, so we're looking at like half that amount, but that's the one they said they will pay up front, and then we will just need to reimburse their receipts. So the other request we have is the Lindquist properties, which are 4 lots up on Unimax Circle, and that's for a sewer line. That area up there already has a water line and power line up there because the water tower sits above there. So we have a couple of applications in process right now that we're kind of looking at and going back and forth with. And so, and then I know for sure we have 2 more that may be putting some in there. So we'll kind of keep you guys posted, and I'll keep you guys posted in advance of when we get more applications for you guys to think about. So. But if we did roll in that last one, the Nelson Zimmerman one, the total encumbrance of the DRP request is $585,000 with $271,000 to be paid back. So right now we have, I would say we have adequate funds. The council did look at those things, and they say we do want to fund up to 50%. So you guys don't have to fund at 50%, but you can fund up to. So right now we're looking good as far as like the requests matching up, but I do know that some of those other ones too, if there's people that have been talking to us, if those do come through, we will not be able to match everyone at 50%. So I'll keep you guys posted as to those as they come in. So yeah, it kind of depends. And then the other consideration, if you go to the next page there, depending on how those ARPA funds turn out, if we need to spend money or spend those in an expedited manner, would be the Forest Acres of Fognac water line. We talked about that Cottonwood loop out there, and we could put fire hydrants out there. And so we'd be able to spend ARPA funds would cover that, and about $55,000 would need to come from the DRP to pay for that. So the thing that's nice about that is that, one is we have fire hydrants in that area, which is the major issue, and from the one person that we know that's building out there so far is that building with a water suppression system in your facility is not cheap, and it's difficult. And so it's kind of another thing that we're running into out there. But that would also be like a consideration. If we do have some funds that we need to spend by June 30th. So that's kind of the information pieces, but then I also wanted just to talk about a little bit about some possibilities for the work session format. And also attached to your laydown, we have the DRP application, because this is our newer application that we're using, and so I wanted you guys to kind of see what's required of the developers and what they we're trying to make things really clear, and we're changing things a little bit. And then after that, we have kind of I would say the DRP evaluation criteria. When we look at like the comprehensive, these are all from previous discussions that we've had with you guys, so you guys have seen this document before. But we have related comprehensive plan items, and then some kind of potential evaluation criteria to think about as we're looking at these developers' presentations. And then we also had kind of this draft DRP evaluation rubric that you guys have also seen this before as well. And so anyway, I just wanted to, with this work session that's coming up in over a month, we have some time to prepare for that. And so if there's anything that I will keep you apprised of any new applicants and kind of how that's going to go. But if there's anything else that you would like to see,
just let you know.
Just let us know if you like, hey, we would like to maybe have a discussion at a previous meeting about the evaluation document, or and kind of my thought was be like, depending on how many people that we have presenting, give them about 5 minutes to present, and then maybe another so many minutes for you guys to like ask questions about theirs, and you can kind of fill out forms, and we'll see how many people we have presenting, and I could see a thing like, okay, yeah, this is pretty easy, we want to do this here, we want to do this here, and we want to do this here. But I can also see like if we have we might need to, you guys might need to, we'll figure out a different time thing, but anyway, those are my ideas for how that might go.
It's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
So you don't really need anything from us?
No, I don't need anything from you. I just want to give you guys a heads up and prepare you, and if you do have any thoughts or please share them with me in the meantime, and we can, I just want to have you guys prepared as well as possible.
Okay. Any comments before we move on? Yes, Councilmember Green.
Two things quickly. That if somebody already has a fund balance, can they request another one, or it looks like there's a name here that's kind of duplicated.
Right. Yeah. So that was and when you guys approved that this application, that was one of the things that was discussed. Is we want to make sure that the developer has that thing kind of cleaned up. We do have time to get those two sorted. So for this multiple projects, but yeah, that is that's been discussed with that person.
And then just on the potential evaluation criteria, priority would be the type of housing the city needs most at the time. How is that determined? Can we get some kind of a real estate survey or a report from our realtors, or I don't know?
The KPED just did a housing, they did kind of a pretty substantial study this last year, and I can send that to you, but they came into their community, we had phone calls, they talked to all of our realtors, and so they did a lot of good digging in information, and so I can pass that along to you in the meantime, if that will be helpful. They actually just released that like 2 days ago or something like that.
That would be good.
Yeah, I would like to see that.
Anything else?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Then, last two items. We're going back to the ones taken off the consent. The first is no grounds for protest to a new AMCO Distillery retail license for Seward Distilling Company at 226 Fifth Avenue. And Councilmember Calhoun, I believe you were the one that took it off consent, so do you want to speak to that one? We'll do them individually.
Sure. The reason that I pulled this one is not because I don't think it's a good idea or anything negative at all. It's just when I first looked at it, my concern was the zoning part of it. I got that cleared up because it is Central Business District. I believe Danny just left, unfortunately. I did discuss it with them, so the zoning looks correct for it, but what I wanted people to understand is what we're going to do if we approve this one, and the same is going to follow, but is we're just approving, we're not disapproving them to get a liquor license to have this facility. There's nothing there now but an empty lot. Nothing's been built, no structures or anything, but they are going to have to go through a process to get a conditional use permit through community development and planning and zoning. And because it is, when we look at a distillery, I think we're looking at a light industrial issue. So there is going to be a process for them to go through. And I just wanted everybody to understand, if we approve the liquor license part or we don't object to it, then it's going to allow them to move forward. And my understanding is, by going through the process they're going through to get the liquor license approval, if we did object to it and didn't allow that to happen, then they're not going through all the expense of everything else to get the project going. So I just wanted to make sure everybody understood that if there are people that don't like this and think we're just, we're giving them this license and they're good to go, there is a whole other process that they're going to have to go through before this can happen.
I appreciate you doing that, because I think on reading it, people wouldn't understand, so, and that kind of applies to both of these. But,
it does.
Councilmember Barlow.
This is a question to Councilmember Calhoun. I'm really pretty innocent or naive about AMCO and I always understood that alcohol permits were very limited, and you usually would buy them from another if you were to try to get one. So how does this work? Is this a different?
Yeah, thank you, Councilmember Barnwell. There are different types of licenses. There are probably a dozen different kind of liquor licenses you can get. For the business I'm in, it's a private club license. For Tony's Bar, Yukon Bar, it's a regular bar license. For a package store like Oak and Keg, they had to buy the Yukon Liquor package store license so that they could have the Oak and Keg. Those are limited. The consideration right now is that this is a distillery, that's a separate license. You can have one per 4,000 in population.
There you go.
We have a brewery here, so we already have a brewery license. Distillery license and winery license and brewery license are manufacturer's licenses, but they're separate categories. So you can have one of each of those in a town our size right now.
Okay. So we would vote on these individually, I believe, correct?
It might cause confusion to be voting on like a non-objection. I don't know if it'd be easier just to call it good unless anyone has an objection.
Yeah, normally we just keep them on consent, so we don't normally do this. So are we okay to agree on non-objection to the first one? Let's do them individually. Okay, and then the second one, it's a manufacturer sampling endorsement for this very same thing. Are we okay with that non-objection?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so we will let AMCO know that there was no objection.
Thank you.
Council.
Yeah, we get something new every so often, All right, so that, I believe, was the business part. And I should mention, well, we'll just move on to citizen comments because I know some people are waiting. This is the time where you get up to 5 minutes per speaker, and all you do is raise your hand and I'll call you up, and the same, your name and inside or outside applies. So does anyone want to make any comments at this point? Come on up.
Hubbard, inside city limits. I just wanted to thank the council for postponing Resolution 022. It's important that we all do our due diligence on the budget and not just accept numbers that are thrown at us at sort of the last minute. This is an important process, and I just encourage you to continue to be good stewards of our budget process. Thank you.
Anyone else? Come on up. We still need your name again. Just, it's for the record.
Randy McFarland, outside town.
Thank you.
Since parking's on the menu tonight. I wasn't complaining about prices earlier, I'm complaining about the policy and as it affects merchants pass, the pass for the center lot, basically. And doesn't say what it takes to qualify for that $350 parking pass anywhere. So, to let you know, I'd like to buy a couple because $350 parking for the season is like a 19-cent hamburger. I can't turn it down. Okay? And I have a business, but I don't do business in the harbor. I observe a lot in the harbor. I'm there a lot. But I do have a business. And I pay taxes and all that, everything. But I don't do business in the harbor. What's preventing me from buying 2 parking spots? Because I'm a merchant. And the merchant license, the permit, basically allows you to stay, from my understanding. The 2-hour limit doesn't mean anything to you. You can stay there basically all day. I know it says absolutely no exceptions. Okay? I know that. But why would someone pay $350 if you're a resident? You can buy the same thing for $75. 2 and 2 is not adding that up here. Why spend $350 when I can spend $75 as a I'm assuming resident of Seward or whatever. I don't have a slip holder anymore, I paid that for a long time. And those are the people that are getting squeezed out. The mom and pop boat owners they're running out of parking, especially in the J-Dock area. I don't know, it's a policy thing. Policy's not clear. We make exceptions. Nobody here can tell me if I can buy those passes. And that's, go ahead.
Oh, no, after you speak, when it comes back to council and administration responses, they may have an answer. We don't have a dialogue at this point.
Okay, well, I started to get confused, so I won't go on here anymore. But anyway, the parking system is not fair, and the unfair part is the policy, basically. So, anyway, thanks for your time.
Thank you, Randy. Anyone else wishing to speak? Okay, seeing none, I'll bring it up here to council and administration, and we'll start with the city manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And there's a lot of policy on the brain about parking, but I wish Benny was still here, but unfortunately I don't know the answer to the question of why somebody would get a commercial parking if they have a slip holder permit and etc. I do know that in that center lot, there is no permit that counts for that center lot. So you can, no matter what permit you hold, you can only be there for 2 hours. But for the rest of those questions, I'll definitely look into it and make sure that our policy aligns with what we are asking people to pay for. As well as my administrative comments will also include a reminder for the Parks and Rec open house on Thursday night. And I think that's all that I can remember off the top of my head right now. But
And
I
cats.
And cats. Now that Claire's gone, I can say, go get some cats, everybody.
Okay, Mr. Bickling, do you have anything?
No comments, thank you.
Okay. I'll bring it to council. I'll start with Councilmember Draper. You look ready.
Okay. I wanted to thank all the citizens who reached out. I always like hearing from people, good or bad. I also wanted to give kudos to our linemen for getting the power back up so quickly. Thanks to P&Z and Planning Department for all the work that took a very long time to get that parking before us. Thanks to Sully for the new financial statements. I don't know if anybody else liked them, but I really liked them. And what else? I wanted to let people know that Seward Rotary is considering a bike rack project, and we're looking for input. We put this on our project list, and we had our first meeting, and we're looking for input as to where we might need more bike racks, and you know, anything you think about parking your bike or trying to make it a more bikeable town. And so let us know. It's at sewardbikeracks@gmail.com. Let us know.
Seward Bike Rack. Okay. That's it?
Yep.
Okay, Councilmember Kreitz.
One thing I was going to say is I talked to the city clerk about this. Since we postponed the budget, I had a suggestion of maybe considering with the student exchange with Overhero, of maybe offering some financial assistance to the students that apply, just because I feel like it does limit the students that can apply, just based on the ability for them to pay for that trip. So just something I thought that we might can consider for this application period.
So, thank you. Councilmember Calhoun.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Not a lot, just I do want to thank everybody that has been in contact over the last week or so. Public input is always great, and it just helps all of us to move more towards making sure the public understands that we're not trying to hide things, we're not trying to slip things through without notice. We are trying to be as open as possible, and so the more input that we can give you, the more you can give us, it helps with that. I'll just add again, kudos to the electric department and all their work during all this windy weather, although I wish they could have kept my fence up. And I think Parks and Rec is doing a great job. They got so much going on. I appreciate that energy. And again, I will give kudos to the Community Development and Planning and Zoning Commission on all the work they did on the parking, especially. That was a big lift with a lot of input, and I think it's going to work out well. And I am looking forward to the DRP work session.
Thank you. Councilmember Warner.
Thank you, Madam Mayor McClure. Just want to thank everybody that came out and made public comment, and to those that reached out to me about different items on the agenda. I definitely do like hearing from the public, and that's it today.
Okay, Councilmember Barnwell.
Yeah. Mr. McFarland, I just want to encourage you to don't give up on this subject if you really feel positive about it.
I never give up.
Yeah, just maybe a little tip too is reach out to Danny and/or the city manager. She's not doing much during the day, and/or council members, because it really helps to get us kind of pre-loaded before we get to the meeting on decisions like this. And I know you've been in here and talked about this before, but just don't give up on that. Thanks for your input. And then for planning and zoning and Danny's Department of Community Development, you guys, I just, over and over, Courtney, you guys put in so much work on this parking and really kind of pushed all of our envelopes in terms of how we think, a kind of paradigm shift in this town on parking. And that's a big lift for you guys, and really appreciate you guys being persistent and following that through. So, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Vice Mayor Osinga.
Well, pretty much what everyone has said already, but I would like to thank Mr. Coleman for stepping up and volunteering for the Planning and Zoning Commission, and then congratulate Claire and Vanessa for being selected. Would encourage students and in high school to go ahead, and if you have the ability, please really look seriously at the student exchange program. It is an amazing experience, and it's I just think it's beneficial for someone to participate in that exchange. And then I would just like to reiterate the KPED survey, and I think Mr. Bickley, are you the one that said what that was for?
Yeah,
could you remind me, because I forgot what it was for, but I'd like to remind people that it's going to be out there.
It's for the Kenai Peninsula Borough Economic Development Plan, and so it's kind of like our comprehensive plan, but for economic development of the borough. And so it's just important that people from all communities, and so we just want to make sure that our voice is heard in that, of what's important to us and where we see things going and where they feel like they need to go. And so, yeah, because also too, when they develop that SEDS, that's like a document that the Economic Development Association recognizes, and so if it's in that plan, then it makes it easier to apply for grants that say that stuff. So
lots of good information there. Thank you for the reminder. I couldn't remember. KPED, but I couldn't remember what it was. And then of course, thank you to the linemen. Yes, that wind. I mean, it was pretty ferocious. I drove to Anchorage on Friday, and it was just what a nightmare that was. So again, linemen, good job, kudos, and be careful out there. I guess we do have another wind thing coming tomorrow night, I believe, tomorrow night to Wednesday night. I think they're calling for some more winds here, so just be careful out there. Thank you.
Okay, well, what they all said. I just want to point out that we now have a full Port and Commerce Board with the addition of Deborah Altermat, and we now have still a full Planning and Zoning Commission. So this is all good. I'm loving that people are stepping up. The parking has been interesting. I watched multiple times, some of them. I watched all of those meetings with my cat, you know how I do. And there was a lot going on, and there was a major shift, and then they dropped back, and I came up with something I could vote for, which I think is pretty remarkable, because I was skeptical, and so I like the public process that way, where there was a lot of input. It was balanced out. I just want to point out that, when we have students here, I take a break as soon as it seems reasonable, because they get extra points, government students, if they have a selfie or a picture with me, and so then they can leave. But tonight was exceptional, because one of them said that, I said something in, frivolous, and she said that topics we have are really interesting, and so I'm encouraged by that, you know? It wasn't just, oh, we can't wait to get out of here. They were actually, which made me realize, you know, tonight was probably one of the most diverse meetings as far as the stuff that we've had to deal with, and some of it we pushed away until Wednesday, but, you know, that was a thing too. We make these decisions not frivolously. We like to take our time and hear people. So I'm really pleased that we're going to have some more time on this mid-cycle budget, and then we'll come up with the conclusion with that. So, anything else? I'm so glad you're back. Yes, okay.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Sorry, I don't normally do this, but I do have to say on the planning and zoning issue that Brennan Hornseth did some tremendous deep dive into the parking thing nationally and all the research he did, and so he really deserves a lot of credit for the product that came out of that. And I'm not saying that to embarrass him or anything, but he did a tremendous amount of work.
Oh, yeah.
On that. So.
And those meetings are available to watch still, if you like. That's the wonder of YouTube, except I guess we didn't have sound for the first part of our meeting, Mr. Clerk?
Correct. We did not have sound right up until the city manager's report, somewhere in there.
Okay. So that's unfortunate, but I want to thank, I looked back and some people did text me, but we don't have our phones on, you know, during the meeting, so we didn't get that, but.
We do have the audio recording as a backup, so this will
Okay.
be posted on legislative history as well.
Thank
If
you.
someone really wants to tune into the whole meeting.
We have, so you'll be able to hear it all. Anything else? Okay, with that, I will adjourn us at 9:06 p.m.